All right, so welcome to another episode of the Spohntrained Personal Development Podcast. Our guest today I met at the National Guild of Hypnotists Convention outside of Boston a couple weeks ago, and I attended your first talk, which was on ancient Hawaiian mysticism and huna, and then your second talk on the flash technique, the NLP flash technique. So we'll get into a little bit of both of those, but I was blown away by your breadth of knowledge. You practically have an alphabet soup of letters after your name. Very accomplished, Dr. David Frederick. Welcome, Dr. Dave. How are you today?
Thank you. It's great. Aloha.
So let's give people a little bit about your background. I know you had a lot of experiences across many different modalities. So why don't you share a little bit about your experience?
Well, do you mean you want the initials after my name so that you have an idea?
Whatever's relevant.
Stuff.
Whatever's relevant.
Well, I have a PhD in psychology, doctorate in complementary alternative medicine, a degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, a degree as a naturopathic doctor, a degree as a homeopathic doctor, a degree in ayurvedic medicine as well, and an undergrad in metapsychology. So my specialty also is a lot of things, as you can see.
So we're not counting past lives, right? That's all in this lifetime.
That's all in this lifetime. Yeah, that's right.
Amazing stuff. So let's talk about your background and where you're from and kind of the foundation of this learning.
Well, right. I grew up in New England, and I live in Pennsylvania right now, right in the Lancaster area, with the horse and buggies. So
yeah,
it's a little bit nostalgic, It's kind of nice. And I've had the opportunity to be I guess you want to call a lifelong student of quite a few teachers. One of my teachers was a Zen master. Another one was a Tibetan master. Another one was a yogi. And then I had a series of teachers in Hawaii, which are called Kahunas. And I had 5 of them, 1 female and 4 male. These were the real guys. These were the real people. These weren't what I call popcorn Kahunas that they advertise, and suck people into taking courses and spending money, and they're clueless. These were the real deals. And it took me about probably 55 years of training.
So how did you get involved? Did you live in Hawaii for a time? How did you get involved with Hawaiian?
Back and forth.
Okay. So you just you got curious about it, and then you would travel and.
Well, it's an interesting thing. The word aloha, obviously, people think of it as, oh, hello, goodbye, I love you. It's got a lot more meanings to it than that. The word huna means secret. And the reason is because the Hawaiians kept their knowledge secret from the haoles, not the hollies. That's a pop version, but it's the real is haole. And basically, they were the missionaries that came over from the Boston area and tried to convert them.
And now that's a generic term, right? That's used for white people or mainlanders.
It's hollies.
The hollies, but it's actually haoles. And so
right.
I remember you talking about what that actually meant and why they use that term. So let's break down that language a little bit. How does that word break out and what does it mean?
Well, when Captain Cook came, him and his men just about wiped out about 3/4 of the population of the Hawaiians because he told his men not to mess with the Hawaiian women, but they did and carried a lot of venereal diseases. And back then they didn't have any kind of cure for that. The people suffered greatly. When the missionaries came, they couldn't figure out, how to fix them either. But before that, there was a high priest called Hiva Hiva. And he foresaw a big ship coming with white sails, and that they had this knowledge of this man that could heal people and raise them from the dead and so on. And that's the stories, of course, of Jesus. Mm-hmm. So they were very curious, and when the ship arrived, they came on shore, and they brought all their sick and their lame, and they said, okay, now I'm paraphrasing, of course, fix them, And the missionaries said, oh, no, we can't do anything like that. We've got to build a church, which in Hawaiian is called hei'au, and it's a church, and then we can maybe do something. So it took them like 2 years to build this church, and when they finally built the church, they stood there, and all they did, these missionaries, was get up and talk. And the Hawaiian are very curious people, and they're like, wow, what's going on here? I don't see anything really cool happening. These people don't put any life into their prayers. The word prayer is pule. And they said they don't put any life into it. They don't breathe life into this prayer. You see, so the word breath is ha, H-A, ha. And the word without is oli. So the word came from those who were without breath, because they didn't breathe life into their prayers. They just stood up and talked. So that's where the name Haoli came from, is those who were without breath.
Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the history and the traditions and where they came from and the belief systems. And when you told me this, I was kind of like blown away and interested in learning more, and how these learned people got to Hawaii with all of the powers that they had.
They were the system, and the people and the culture has been around, we would say, beyond 5,000 years. Okay, which is really interesting, because a lot of different cultures developed some very interesting healing and power back 5,000 years. The Egyptians, the Chinese, and the Hawaiians. So there are several stories that go, and you can't pinpoint it as fact, because first of all, I wasn't there 5,000 years ago.
Right.
And so the idea is, it becomes, if you look at it from a left brain side, hearsay. But the idea is that the tribes, or the ancient Hawaiians, came from the Middle East. And they came basically from around the Egypt area. They had tremendous knowledge, and it was said that they were the ones that helped build the pyramids. But they used what we call sound to be able to create a difference in the frequency and vibration, and be able to make it so that the stones could be lifted. So this went on in building these incredible structures that they did. You didn't have 50,000 men taking a lunch break building a pyramid, as the stories go. It was quite interesting. But the ancient Hawaiians had this. But the high priests, again called the Kahunas. Kahuna means keeper of the secret. In fact, in ancient Hebrew, the word kahun is almost identical, and it means keeper of the secret of the ancient Kabbalah and things like that. So there's some cross references that's been kind of like creeping up, in and out of stories. And so you've got the Hawaiians, and basically there was 12 tribes. And we have 12 Polynesian tribes. And the tribes, as you know, as the story goes, they never knew what happened to them later on after they crossed the river, the Red Sea. So there's some parallel things going on here. And the high priests of the Hawaiian culture, the people, they were afraid they were going to lose their sacred lore through contamination. So they started meditating, and they started sending out information for let's say right now, the universe. But I'll get into that in a little bit later.
Okay.
And what they did was they found, through sending out this telepathic look, as to where would be a safe place for our people, where would be a place we could practice our lore and not have it contaminated or anything else. And what they found was the Pacific, the Hawaiian Islands, and the other islands, empty and completely no people. So they figured, oh, this is a cool place. So they started their journey. But the heads of the pharaoh said, no, you can't go. Your magic's too cool. And they said, no, we're leaving. So they started leaving, and they were going across the Red Sea. And one tribe stayed behind to protect the other tribes so that they could be safe. Now, you know the story of the Egyptians, and they sent their chariots after them and everything else. And,
right.
Moses stood there in parting of the water. No. The Red Sea has high tides and low tides come in very quickly, just like the Bay of Fundy. If you've ever been to the Bay of Fundy, you'll see that the tides will go out within a couple of hours. And as far as the eye can see, there's no ocean. And then all of a sudden, when the tide comes in, it comes rushing in really fast. And basically that's what happened. So the Egyptian soldiers, they're going across, the tide's out, and they're going off across and chasing them, and all of a sudden the tide started coming rushing in, and they were caught into that water. But that's how that other story goes. So the Egyptians couldn't get them. So 11 tribes kept going. One tribe stayed behind. Now, as the story goes, that one tribe escaped up into what we call the Atlas Mountains, which is up in Africa, northern Africa, which is where Egypt is. And they basically survived up there for years. Now, I'm going to fast forward to the 20s, okay, a few thousand years.
Okay.
We'll bounce back and forth.
Okay.
So there was this war correspondent in England, and he basically heard about this tribe in Africa that actually they spoke a language almost identical to Tahitian. So he decided he's going to go and check this out. So he goes to North Africa and he meets the Kwahini, which is like a kahuna, but it's a female. It's Kwahini. And he convinced her to make him his blood son, so he could learn all this cool stuff that she was doing. She would take this huge door that would be in a cave to store food and stuff, and using her powers, she would just blow the door right through the cave, just push it right in. She'd stand in a circle. She would call in the different animals that were around, and they would all come and sit peacefully. Nobody ate each other. Nobody attacked. And then she thanked them for coming, and then she dismissed them. She had this ability to do some amazing things. Well, one day they were up on a high hill and they were watching a couple of other sort of tribes worrying, and somebody shot something and a bullet came over and went through her heart and killed her. It was a stray bullet.
Wow.
So his training was like, okay, I'm done. So he packed up what he knew and he went back to England. Now, at that time, there was a school teacher from California that went to the Hawaiian Islands to teach the Hawaiian kids English on the plantations, and his name was Max Freedom Long. Max wrote a lot of books. He unfortunately had a lot of misinformation in the books, particularly in the Hunikotan religions, because he didn't understand the ancient Aramaic and the language and the customs and so on and so forth. But he did his best, and he discovered a lot of things about the Hawaiian lore through hearsay and stories while he was there teaching. When Reginald Stewart somehow heard about this, Reginald Stewart, with his lessons and knowledge, provided a special key to what Max Freedom Long was looking for to try to put the system together. Because again, secret lore. It's not for everybody.
So you said Aramaic. Where does Aramaic come in?
Well, Aramaic, I don't think we have time to do all this, but okay. Aramaic, you got to understand, there's a lot of interesting things in the Aramaic language. The Syriac, the Aramaic language, is one of the oldest languages in the world.
Right.
And the Aramaic language, one of the problems that you have, and people who study like the scriptures in the Bible get a lot of misinterpretations, because when the rise of the Saracen movement, which was the Islam, took over, they cut off the eastern side from the west. So the original text, which was in Aramaic, it's called the Peshitta text, which I have, of course, in my studies of that, because I'd studied world religions and psychology for like forever. And the Aramaic, well, a lot of the languages and customs, you see, were very, very powerful back then, and words have power, and the way you do the vowel sounds and everything else. Well, the Hawaiians, basically, when they started on their journey and to get out of Dodge and started moving towards the Hawaiian Islands, which took them a long time, by the way. I mean, it took them a long time. They kind of rubbed elbows with the Dravidians. And what happened was a lot of the words started to be similar because they shared information and knowledge.
Gotcha.
So like the Kabbalah, which is one of the mystical writings in the
right.
Hebrew, like I said, contained a word which was kahun. Okay, and again, it means keeper of the secret, the knowledge. You see, so there was a sort of a I don't want to call it an interferential exchange of energy, of knowledge with them. And they just kept coming. And you can see that if you study the ancient scripture from the Aramaic, like I know the Aramaic because I speak a little bit of the Aramaic from my studies of understanding it, and the language and the mysticism, and the culture and the psychology. Then you get a real story of what's going on over in the Middle East. But you have to study the language. One dot can change the whole meaning of a word.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
in Hawaiian, they didn't have a language. There was no written language. You see, everything was passed down through what was called melees. And basically, melees are chants. So each person that was in a specific group, and they knew this like when you were 3 years old, they say, oh, this person has seems to be attracted towards boats and always hanging around boats and everything else. So they felt that he received this knowledge from the spirit of boat building. So they started training him, and his whole life he became a master boat builder, and that was the kahuna of boat building. Then you had the other young ones that grew up to become more into the religious, spiritual practices, which is the pule, which means, again, prayer. And they were the, again, kahuna for a prayer. And so you had specialists. Each one was a specialist. No written language. You had to go before the group the chiefs. And you had to go every couple of years, and you had to recite the lineage of boat building or the lineage of building temples or whatever it was. If you got one root word wrong, you were thrown out and said, come back in 2 years.
So the melees were how they conveyed information down the line, right?
Correct. That's why it was never contaminated.
Gotcha.
Because you had to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and you only had that thing, boat building, temple building, or internal medicine, which would be alalapa'au, which is actually herbology, okay, and medicine. And that's what you studied. That's what you studied. So there was no contamination, because if you didn't get every single root word right, you had to go away in shame, and then you had to come back in 2 years and do it all over again until you got it perfect.
So the words have power, right? And the way that you breathe and pronounce the vowels and the sound reverberates through you, that's all part of these melees, right?
Yes, and one of the frustrating things I had in class was I didn't have enough time. I was going to do an intonation with everybody to show you how cool that was, and have everybody do that, but we didn't have time. But yeah, the words, I mean, the sounds have power. See, and like, for instance, the hula. Okay, the hula was only for men. It wasn't women like today. You know, all the Hawaiian women, you see all the pretty girls and everything else dancing, and the Tahitians dancing. Back then, it was men, not women. It was just the men, because they're the ones that carried the lineage. They're the ones that carried it down from one master to the next master to the next master, because the women were busy raising children, and the family was very, very important. Ohana, which is family, very, very important in Hawaiian family. Even until to this day. So if you're gonna go look for a kahuna, forget it. Okay, they're not in the yellow pages.
Right.
They're very hard to even try to find. We're not going to find them, because they're masters of certain knowledge, and the Hawaiian people were very leery of the missionaries and the haoles, because the saying goes that the missionaries brought the Bibles and the Hawaiians had the land, and then later on the Hawaiians had the Bibles but the missionaries had the land, and they took over everything. You see, and they paid off the king and queen with treasures and money and everything else. And they actually outlawed the kahunas. But nobody dared try to arrest them or go after them, because they were very powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do some pretty damaging things.
Okay. So what were some of the powers? Because I know, most of the people that I spend time with, there's probably two things, and that's healing and manifesting, right? Those are the things that we talk a lot about, even as hypnotists. So what were the powers that those kahunas had in healing and manifesting, and how can we apply some of those principles in our life today?
Well, believe it or not, the flash technique came from one of the instant healings from the ancient. I just had to take it and make it more pragmatic for the Western society without getting into, it's hard to describe what they did, because everything they did was with prayer to their spiritual connector, okay, which is their ao makua. Now, ao makua, and I'll get into the very quick makeup I did, in class, was utterly trustworthy parental spirit guide. In other words, male, female, the androgen, and male, female, made he them. Okay, so that higher spirit is made of male, female energies. So you could be two levels, just like when Jesus taught. Jesus always taught dual. Okay, he always taught historical lesson and spiritual lesson. And some of the spiritual lessons that he taught was not for everybody. When he was all the people gathered and they said, 4,000, 5,000. There was nobody there with a Texas calculator figuring out how many people were there. You're lucky if 25 or 50 people were there. See, but they like to embellish. That's typical Eastern. That's part of their culture. It's like Texans, So basically, when some of the disciples were saying, "Well, Master, how come you talk to them this way, and you talk to us a different way?" He says, "Because they would never understand. They're simple people. What do? They chase goats and camels, and they're not educated or anything else. So to them, I have to speak in parables, simple stories like Aesop's fables, but to you, I'll give you the secrets, you see."
And I always thought that Jesus was a hypnotist of sorts, and that he would tell Ericksonian hypnotic parables to get people to change their lives. That's neither here nor there, but I think that's, maybe he understood some of those principles.
Well, he understood the mind. I mean, you got to understand. Now, this is a whole different subject. I teach a course on this. It's called the 7 Keys of Understanding the Bible. And when you go into the part where it was actually ended up 2 weekends because it was very powerful. Where did he go for all those years before he came back as a young man?
Right.
Where did he go?
Right.
Where was he studied? And I have all the documents, including Tibetan documents, to show where he was. That's a whole different story. But anyway, so the knowledge that they had, they weren't going to share it with anybody. Because you can't trust anybody. Even to this day, you can't speak out of the family. They say, don't tell anybody anything. Don't tell your haulis anything. Even to this day, it's called tapu, or in Hawaiian, kapu. It means forbidden. Okay. Don't do it, you see. So it's still that way today. So even though I'm teaching certain things, I was sanctioned to do it. There are certain things I can't teach.
Sure. So some of the, I guess, what are some of the simple principles of manifesting and healing that we can incorporate into our lives?
Everything in the universe is vibration.
Yes.
Everything. You know that. The only difference between a coffee cup and a pencil is the rate of vibration and how it manifests into a physical form. So the idea is, if you know how to manifest something that is not there but is there from a mental, then the mental thought is a real thing.
Yes.
So, and it comes from intent. Intent is the genesis of thought. So the idea is, if you want to manifest something, many people have tried, many different religions, many different cultures and everything else have tried through manifestations, and they try to turn, lead into gold and so on and so forth. But they missed the boat with the lead into gold thing in alchemy. Okay, that's what that was not about. Okay, it was the manifestation of what you can change form and then be able to manifest that into reality. So, in science, from basic labs in chemistry, you have air, water, right? And then you have the solids, wood. So you have the ether and you have the water. Okay, so you've got the thought that you project, and it's kind of left up there in the sky. Then you have water, so it's fluid. So nothing has changed yet. You can change it. And then eventually, if you hold on to that thought and that process long enough, it will manifest in a physical form. So you have these 3 steps. Okay, so the Hawaiians knew how to do this with great accuracy. I mean, they can control the weather. They can control and talk to the animals. I've done it. I mean, I have pictures of it. I have a huge picture of me where I had 5 sheep. I was when I first moved to Pennsylvania. I was going for a ride and saw this little sort of shack shed that had a rustic door and a little bit of snow on top. And there was about 7 sheep out there, but they were all looking at different directions. And I told them to all turn and face forward for a group shot, and they did.
So yesterday I was going for a run, and there's this little workout area by the park. So I was doing pull-ups and push-ups, and there was this dog running around, and it was off in the distance. And I thought, I was visualizing and imagining the dog coming towards me. And pretty soon the dog starts running towards me. And I was like, and I thought to myself, and I said out loud, I said, "Get out of here. Like, you got to be kidding me." I said, "Get out of here." And the moment I said that, the dog turned around and ran away.
Sure. Exactly.
So,
Do you remember the exercise we did with the water and the little piece of paper and how you could move it?
of course.
The minute you think about it, it stopped.
Yeah.
Because you have to get into, and this is one of the secrets, is you have to get into what we call no mind. All right, and when you get into no mind, then it becomes what we call knowing. And what happens is that you absorb certain things through knowing. This is how what we call inventions are made. It's not inventions are made. It's there. It's a matter that you just happen to tap into this level of energy in that particular mindset, because that's where your thinking was, that's where your processing was, and it's under the law of attraction. So it's revealed.
So this is, there's we set an intent, right? We start to visualize, we speak it, we start to hold that from, air into water, and it starts to solidify. And I think one of the things that I talk about a lot that I may not be as good at as I am at teaching it is the idea of releasing attachment or getting into that no mind, right? So when you just you set that intention, you release it to the universe, and you hold that space. What are some strategies or some ways to understand how to do that? I know it's kind of like it's like trying to explain riding a bicycle, right? You got to
your conscious mind is your worst enemy,
right?
Even the studies of Buddhism, when they say you have to work to put the flame out, well, what it means is to really get rid of the conscious mind. It's the same thing in Zen. When you go into Zen, you have to have a clear mind. I mean, I remember my Zen master would always say to me, "Clear mind, clear thought." And he would do this with his hand alongside my head. It says, "Clear mind, clear thought, clear mind, clear thought." Because when you go into that suspension, that's when things happen. And the knowing becomes known. Now, I'll give you a couple of exercises on how to do that for your listeners.
Great.
Okay. One of them, in the Hawaiian approach to it, we call it the Ha right. Ha means breath. All right, and the Hawaiians do a lot of things with breath, because breath is like fanning the fire. You can have wood, you can have the intent and everything ready to go, and you can even light a match. But if you don't give it oxygen, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to, and then if you want it to increase in its strength, you have to fan the fire. Well, that's what the Hawaiian breathing is. This is what they call it, the Ha, H-A. And there's a Ha right for projection of prayer. There's a Ha right for healing. And there's a Ha right for good weather. Excuse me. There's a Ha right for different ways of processing. And what you want to do is, it's like end result imagery. Okay? And this is the reason why people don't get answers to prayers. It's always begging, please, 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 please. Mm-hmm. You see? No. There's no such thing as please, please, please. It's thank you, thank you, thank you. Because it's already done. Because please, 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 please is no different than going out into the fields here in the Amish country, planting your corn, and then come back in 3 days and dig it up to see if it's growing. You see? It ain't going to happen.
Right.
So you have to have that intent, and then you have to make it a done deal. And that takes practice, because doubt creeps in. And doubt are the weeds. And that's what chokes the idea. So that's in one of Jesus's parables too, as well. You scatter some seeds here, and it falls, and thorns grow up and on the rocks, and then a few may drop and catch hold, you see. And this is what happens with people. So the idea is the Ha right is simply, from the Hawaiian perspective, you're going to think, okay, what is it that you want? That's the first thing. You can't walk in
that's our intent,
candy store and say, I want this. Huh? That's your intent. What is it that you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? Like I said, you can't walk into a candy store and you can't say, I want this, I want that. No, I want this. No, I want that. This is what people do.
Right. So having that
So
clear intent. Okay. So we have
you
that.
have to have that clear intent. Okay. And say, all right, number one, specific. Number two, is it going to hurt anybody else with you trying to get it? You know, are you trying to steal somebody else's house or somebody else's woman or man or whatever it happens to be? You see, what is your intent? You see, and who's it going to affect around you? All right, and you want it bad enough, and are you willing to pay the price to get it? So these are the things that you have to think about. Now, once you say yes, I've got this. Now, what you do is you're going to breathe. And I know everybody breathes, but I'm talking about breathing the right way, the Hawaiian way. Okay, and the Hawaiian way is, again, you're going to breathe in through your nose, almost like hypnosis. Okay, this is what I do with my patients all the time. All right, I want you to take a deep breath, but in through your nose, you hold your breath for about 4 seconds, and then out through your mouth.
And that's
but
the
you
ha.
Go like that's the ha. So we'll listen to it when you take a deep breath. And that's where the name came from. Ha. See, aloha means to share breath.
So is there something in the vibration when you make when you make that sound that changes
that sound? Ha. Yeah, you're fanning the fire, and you're building your energy up, and you're charging your battery, internal battery. Right. So you're charging all the energy in your body to be able to supercharge the thought, because thought, has power. Thought has energy, and you want to be able to take it and send it somewhere. See, that's the key.
So that breath is it's similar to the pranic healing, breathe and hold and exhale, and it's a little bit similar. So when we're breathing like this, what are we talking to ourselves? Are we creating pictures or images or movies?
No, it's like a meditation. All you're going to do is you have to practice it. So you have to do it in four breaths, because also ha means four. It also means many. So aha, you're going to do 4 breaths. Okay, then you rest for a moment, then you do 4 more breaths, and you rest for a moment, you do 4 more breaths. Now, if you're going to do it right, you got to do 40 breaths. That's 10 sets of 4. All right. Now, once you're done with 10 sets of 4, then you're just going to take that energy that you built up. It's called mana. Mana means life, like prana, chi, ki. It's life force. It permeates everything in the universe. Okay, so mana. So you're building up this mana. Now, what are you going to do with it?
Is that the same word from the mana that the Israelites lived on in the desert?
No, the mana in the desert is a plant.
Okay,
I can't remember the name of it. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but it's a plant that grows up in the desert, and it's got like little yellow beads that kind of taste like honey. And that's why when Jesus said, have every man, pick and eat to his fill for the day, because when the sun comes out, you see the ants go back and they eat it all.
Gotcha.
Because it's a treat. So you got to eat it before the sun comes up.
Okay.
And the heat comes up. And it's a real plant. I have pictures of it in my course, of the plant. And that's what kept the Israelites alive, for food, for nourishment.
Right. Okay. Well, I got distracted. I distracted you there. So
no, that's all right, because the Bible mana means, what is it? It's manna. It means, what is it? What is it? Because when they found it and they tasted it, they go, oh, what is this? What is it? So it's called mana, from a gift from God or a gift from heaven. So when they call it mana from heaven, that's what it is.
Okay.
It's this little plant with the little round stuff that you eat. You see, so that's the real story behind that mana, and that's what it is. Mana in the Hawaiian, like prana, it's life force.
Sure. So we built that up with our breath.
So you build it up with the breath.
Okay.
You're doing 40 breaths.
Yep.
Now, no intent other than sending it to your guardian, high self, avatar, overseer, guardian angel, God, whatever you want to call the higher energy, the higher super conscious, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It doesn't care. You want to send it up to there as a gift. That's it. Just there you go. Thank you. I love you, because everything's in threes. The universe is three. The building block is three. Everything is in three. Your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, your superconscious mind. In Hawaiian, it's the Unihipili, subconscious, Uhane, conscious, and Aumakua, superconscious. You see, even Carl Jung knew this, but the Hawaiians knew it 5,000 years before Carl Jung in psychology. He said, I only think about this. And basically, now you've got 3 levels of energy. So when you breathe, you increase that energy. Now you're going to send that vibration, that energy up to your higher self, because that's what it uses. Okay. Now, the second round is you do another 40 breaths, but now you attach to it your end result desire. Okay. I want this new wonderful person coming into my life. Okay, you can't turn around and say, you know, I want him to be 6 foot tall, blue eyes, blonde hair, you know, well built, or you know, I want this new girl in my life. I want a 36, 24, 36 body. You can't do that. You're going to say, I want somebody special to come into my life. You see, because you got to understand, your higher self knows. If you go to the Bible, I'm just using this as a reference. You go to the Bible, Jesus said the same thing. He says he knows before you ask.
Yeah.
Says it right there. Right? He says,
Yes.
he knows before you ask. Now, they use he only because back then it was a male-dominated society. You got to understand that.
Right.
All God he. So it's he knows. So your higher self, your conscious mind, your subconscious, going up to your higher self, your Aumakua, knows. So you don't have to make a big description.
So is that different than having a clear intent?
No, that is your intent.
That's the clear intent.
That's the secret.
I studied with David Snyder after I studied with you, and he talks about the characteristics of lucky people, and one of them is that they're specifically vague, right? They know what they want, but they're vague enough about it that the universe can deliver it in a way that's maybe even better than they could imagine, right? And that's kind of what this is about. Is being vague enough with what you want that your higher self.
Well, you're a human being, and you're limited in your ability and capacity to do certain things. So your higher self is much wiser than you are. So the idea is, this is my thing. I want somebody special to come into my life. Well, your higher self already knows what you want. So the idea is, it's kind of like the chess, up on a higher level of vibration at a different dimension, to be able to put this person in place with this person versus that person. It's just like wanting a job. Well, you say, I want a job as whatever it happens to be. Maybe you have to wait 6 months because the company, sometimes they don't advertise for people because they want anybody in-house to know that they're looking for somebody else. But they're out there looking. So we have this serendipity type thing that goes on. And all of a sudden, the dots are connected. And it's all done up there. You see, everybody's shifting around and making things. One Aumakua gets a hold of another one because like attracts like. And saying, hey, I got this guy, I'm paraphrasing, of course. I'm trying to put it into a modern context. Sure. And basically, I got this guy who's very talented, blah, 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 blah. I think you can use him. So the other Aumakua says, okay, I'll put a little hint down there into this guy. And this other guy goes, oh, I heard about so-and-so who had so-and-so. And the next thing you know, boom. And this is what happened. But you put your intent, your good intent, and you know that you're good and you know who you are, and you put it out there, and the Aumakua says, okay, I'll go to work for you. But how do you do it? You need energy. So the Ha gives him that energy, the first shot. The second shot, it carries it. That's why the ancient Hebrews, when they do the incense, and it rises, they believe their prayers are being carried up to God. You see? And that's why the Catholics kind of borrow that from the Hebrews, and they use that in their church, ceremonies with the chain and the burning of the incense. Things like that. So
is there something in the breath and in this process that aligns the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious?
Yeah, it changes the vibration, so everything is congruent. Everything is in balance and in harmony. Because, first of all, if your subconscious mind doesn't feel you're worthy, you're screwed.
Right.
You're not going to go anywhere. Okay, you know that. The subconscious mind is the one that holds your fears, your thoughts. It holds your feelings of low self-esteem. I'm not worthy. You start getting doubt. The minute you do that, you're going to go in that Amish field and dig up that corn, you see, and that's what happens. So it stops the process. So you have to be convinced this is what you want, that you deserve it, and it's right, and you're not taking it from anybody else on this journey. So when you send the first 40 breaths, it's a gift of love. And then love is the most powerful energy in the universe.
Yes.
Is love. The vibration of it. I think it's 538 is the vibration, okay, of it, which is pure love. So when you have, I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but I have a tuning fork that's 538, and it actually will reprogram. You have one?
I think so.
Is it 538? It's
528. Is that right? Is it 528?
Yeah, that's the vibration of love, but that's the vibration that scientifically had shown that will actually clear and reprogram DNA. So if you've got damaged DNA, it will actually bring it back into balance. So
Wow.
the Hawaiians do a lot of chanting, and the chanting, the vowels of the chanting, you see, creates a vibration, and that's what it does. So when we do the breath, it's the same. We're generating a vibration, and that vibration is going to get finer and finer and finer. It's like AM radio to FM radio to satellite radio. You know, it gets refined each time. You see, in purity. So the idea is when you do the ha, that's what you're doing. You're purifying thought, and you're increasing the energy level. Now, once you send it to your high self, your guardian angel, whatever you call that, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's a gift of love. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, you attach it to that end result, and you say, you know, I now give thanks for this new job. I now give thanks for perfect health. You don't say for healing my kidneys. You see, no, you don't have to be that specific. No, just for my balance of my body, for rebalancing. Everything's about rebalancing. You're either in balance or you're out of balance, one or the other. So when I deal with my patients and they come to me and they say, well, I have cancer. I said, well, no, you don't. They said, what do you mean you don't? I said, you don't. I said, well, I was just diagnosed. I said, no, you don't have cancer. And they look at me strange. I said, yes, but I do. I said, no, you don't. I said, what you have is an imbalance. I said, what we're going to do is work together to help bring you back into balance. Because words have power. And when somebody says you have cancer, it's a death sentence.
Yes.
Don't use that word, you see. You know, I try to eliminate these words. It's like pain. That's a 4-letter word. It shouldn't be used.
Right.
Okay. It should be discomfort.
Same with depression and anxiety, right?
It's the same thing. It's a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
You see. No, you're not. You're just out of balance. That's all. We're going to bring you back into balance. And when I work with diet, I work with dress sizes. Okay, you're at 18, so our goal is 16. That's it. Men, belt size, 1 notch. Boop. That's it. So we don't have the subconscious mind that's been pre-programmed that you're no good, you don't deserve it, you know, you're this, or it'll never happen. Destroy it.
Right.
Sabotage your intent. So we'll get back to the breathing. We go back 4 breaths up. You take, I want a new job, you know, and you don't say, I want a new job. You see, you just say, thank you for this wonderful new job now coming into my life. And then you take, you know, the 40 breaths, and then you say that. And then you go, okay. Now, there's another short version of it. Okay. It's called okay, aha, no. I know. What does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll say it slow so everybody of your listeners can practice this. Okay, aha. It's like aha, but aha.
Okay, aha.
No.
No.
No. All right. Okay. Say it again.
Okay,
aha.
no.
No. It means this breath is for in English. Okay. And you can say this breath is for healing. This breath is for a new job. This breath is for a new person in my life. And so you you can do it several ways. You can take the breath and you can say while you're taking it, okay, aha, no. And then you go, and then perfect health. You breathe it into the high self. Okay, so it's okay, aha, no. Health, okay, aha, no. Prosperity, okay, aha, no. See, whatever it happens to be that your desire is. Okay,
Right.
so that's the first thing. So you do that, and that's a short version. You can even tag it on, but the idea is after the second 40 breaths, you're going to attach that intent, but you're giving thanks. And then once you breathe, and after you send it up, you got the 40 breaths, and then you take the intent. Let's say new job as an example. Okay, you want a new job. So 40 breaths, send it up with love. 40 breaths, you're going to send it with the intent. Yamaku already knows, your guardian. Okay, and you send it up with the breath, the last breath, which is what you say. Let this prayer take flight into your loving arms, and let the rain of blessings fall. You can say upon me or upon somebody who's you want to send healing to.
Sure.
You see. But so it's just let this prayer take flight into your loving arms, and then let the rain of blessings fall. And if you do that, you see, sometimes when you just do the 40 breaths and you send it to your high self as a gift, you might all of a sudden feel this overwhelming of love, this feeling of love. Can even make you almost cry, or you can feel like a tingling effect. See, and you'll notice that, and the people who are watching this, they will be able to feel it if they do it right. You can't do 40 breaths by going, okay, I got it, because that's our mentality. You see,
Right.
We want now. Now it takes time and preparation. We want to create this what we call aka cord, this connection between you and your guardian, your higher self.
And the more we practice this, the stronger that vibrational cord, right?
Yeah, because you're creating a finer vibration, and if you do it with several people, then we call it braiding the cord. So in Hawaii, if they wanted better crops or they wanted nice weather or whatever it happened to be, because they can control the weather, it's pretty cool. And basically they could do a lot of interesting things like deal with the animals and talk to the animals. I mean, I've done that, for my trainings and how to do that. And other exercises that I teach in the more extensive, obviously, weekend course that I teach on how to do some really cool stuff. I mean, how to do mana infusion, how to create a cloud, how to melt clouds, how to do all kinds of cool stuff. It's pretty intense, but it's fun and it's great. And then you learn intonations and things like that. So 40 breaths, just send it for love. Sometimes you just do that to do that. If you want to attach, then you do another 40 breaths. You got to remember, 4 breaths, rest, couple breaths, then 4 breaths, rest, couple breaths. And at the end, send it up with a gift of love. That's it. No other reason. And then the second time, you got that picture in your mind of what it is. See yourself doing the new job. See yourself speaking confidently. See yourself, end result imagery. Sure. Whatever it happens to be, attach it to the 40 breaths and say, now let this pule, which is prayer, or you can say it in English, prayer if you want, or petition, whatever you want to say, take flight, see, into your loving arms, and then let the rain of blessings fall. In other words, let it come back in reality, manifest. You were talking about when we first started, manifesting. That's what it is. That's what the rain of blessings are. And let it come down and manifest physical form, and it works. So
and
that's
then,
one.
And then we want to release it and stay out of our head about it, right? And how do we make sure those doubts don't creep back in as we're going about our day?
Because you're going to water the plant. When you plant something, you have to water it. It's going to die. Yeah. So how do you water it? You water it with basically thanksgiving. Every morning you get up with positive expectations, and you do this short thing. I give thanks. Every morning when I get up, I give thanks for my ohana. Ohana is family. I give thanks for my family, my children, their spouses, my beautiful grandchildren. You see, I give thanks that their guardians are watching over them, protecting them. I give thanks for my friends, those who care for me, and those whom I care for. And you just go through this whole thing of Thanksgiving. I give thanks for this new job. See, I give thanks for my wonderful home. It's a prayer of thanksgiving every morning, every night, without fail. That's so beautiful. You're watering, you see. Yeah, it's this is what it's about. People that go and they bargain. I mean, I I know some people that if the Patriots don't win the football game, see, they'll pray to God and say, "I'll make a donation to the church this Sunday, if the Patriots win." No, that's so bad. You see, that's
Yeah.
such crazy. That's crazy stuff. You're not going to get the first base. Well, that's baseball, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And they're
Forget
definitely
it.
not getting the first base with the Patriots.
But I mean, people do that. They
Yeah.
do. They do.
Yeah.
They bargain with God. It's ridiculous.
So then when you're working with someone for healing, are you using a similar process to get them aligned, to get that cord strengthened, to manifest healing? And I know you do.
It depends where their head's at. Because I changed my language patterns according to their belief system. See, that's the key.
Sure.
It's all about connecting and being on the same level.
Yes.
But I will share some things with them about here's a cool thing to do. So one of the things that I do, I didn't get a chance to do at class. I wish I could have done it, but I'm always running out of time. It really frustrates me. Is that you take a glass of water, okay, and you fill it about where I have it here, okay, which is about, I don't know, 2.5 ounces maybe. All right, in a short glass maybe. If you have a short glass, one of these glasses, I don't know, they put scotch in or something. I forget what they call them, but anyway, it's a little glass. And you take you wash your hands and you take your index fingers and you put it in the water. It's like putting cables on a battery to charge it, okay? And you put it in the water and then you breathe. Now, in this case, if you want to do it to want to sleep at night better, you're going to do maybe 12, 16 breaths. So 4 sets of 4 or 3 sets of 4. Okay. And you imagine the mana, the life force, going down your arms. You're taking it in first through your nose. You're building the energy, the mana, and then you're going to breathe out. So you could take it in, then you breathe out, and you've got your fingers in the water, and you're going, and you imagine that mana going down your arms and into the water. In fact, if you do this about 40 times, you might even find the water starting to effervesce. It's just like Alka-Seltzer. You'll see little bubbles and things. It's kind of cool. Or it'll turn a slight bluish tinge. It's really kind of neat. So you put it in and you drink it. Now, when you're done with that, you either give it to somebody to make them feel better. You give it to yourself before you go to sleep. You give it to yourself because you're nervous and you're not going to sleep before, like maybe a job that you're going to go interview or something, and you do that. Or if you have a plant that's not doing so good, then you take about maybe 16. You charge that water and you put it in that plant, and boom, bring it right back.
Because you're shifting the vibrations.
Yeah. You're shifting the vibrations, and you're basically energizing the water, and that's going to be alkaline, and you're going to actually increase. Because every time you breathe out, you're alkalizing yourself.
Right.
So every time you breathe out, you're going to be doing that. You're charging and you're alkalizing the water, and you put it in, and boom, they're great.
And you're like an alkaline battery as well. And I'm sure you do so much with diet as well, and right that keeping that right balance of the alkaline pH in the body is a big part of that, and the breath and diet factors in immensely.
Yeah, everything in bringing your body back into balance. Like when you're working with cancer patients or working with anybody, we're a very toxic society. Everything we do is we go through fast food restaurants that is so toxic. The liquids that they sell, the aspartame that's which is it's a neurotoxin, and it's in all the diet sodas, it's in all the foods that are out there. And when I'm dealing with that with people, I say, don't go crazy. So look, you want to lose weight, you have all these diets. These televisions are filled with diets and else. No. I said, all you want to do is just drink water, charge it better, but just drink water and walk. Don't run, don't jog. You're going to end up having bad knees and ankles later on in life. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is walk. You want to walk brisk from one telephone pole to the next? Fine. And then walk regular to the next telephone pole and next, and you just walk. And when you walk, you're exercising your body, you're fanning the fire, you're increasing your energy. In Ayurvedic medicine, in Ayurvedic, after you eat, you're supposed to walk 100 steps. You're fanning the fire. In the United States, I tell my students to walk 1,000 steps. So you're eating garbage, you see.
Yeah.
That's the problem, But all you have to do is eat. If you want to stay alkaline, especially in cancer, you see, cancer cells cannot survive in an alkaline environment.
Right.
If you have an oxygen alkaline environment, cancer cells cannot survive. It's an impossibility. Okay. Nobody else wants to hear that because they make too much money in the hospitals and stuff. But because if you keep that acid base going, that cell will mutate into a nitrogen-breathing acid-base environment. And that's what cancer cells do. Mm-hmm. They love Hershey bars. I'm saying Hershey bars, candy, because that's the sugar is acid, and that's the food for cancer cells. So you got to eat fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, a little bit of chicken and turkey, fresh fish, and little red meats. Not a lot of red meat at all.
You're preaching to the choir. That's pretty much my diet: is lots of greens.
There you go. You see,
and I'm healthy as can be. So
that's how healthy you are. All this stuff is not rocket science. It's common sense. In the Hawaiian Islands, they had fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, fresh air. They didn't have factories and all the noise. The only thing they heard was the air going through the trees or the sound of the ocean. All in this sort of alpha state, that we with the Hawaiians. That's why they call it such a paradise. It was fantastic. And they knew how to solve their own problems. They didn't have psychotherapy or psychiatrists or stuff. They had what was called ho'oponopono. And
I'm glad you brought that up because
we contaminated that today.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So it's the ancient Hawaiian prayer, ho'oponopono, right? So tell us what that means.
Yeah, ho'oponopono means righting the wrong. That simply is what it means. Ho'oponopono. Okay, it's righting the wrong. And today I've had people go by my table at conferences and go, "Oh yeah, I knew that. I took a course. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me." Yes. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" That's what they're paying to teach these people? I said, "That's a joke." Ho'oponopono is a very closed door process that only family is allowed to be there. Even if you're a daughter-in-law, maybe, or a son-in-law, you might be included. Maybe. Then they have an intermediary, and he or she comes in. And they go through the process of, you hurt her. Well, first of all, you got to make her favorite dish for after celebration, hopefully. So then you go through, and it's like peeling an onion. You go through step by step, and the mediator comes in and says, "Okay, you understand what's going on here? You understand what's going on here? Okay, are you willing to abide by the rules and share and listen to what she says? Are you afraid to abide by the rules? Abide by the rules and share? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, you tell me your story. Okay, now you tell me your story. Okay." And then they work it out, and they may get into a little heated argument or something. It may last a couple hours or a couple days, and they come back together again. And basically what it is the modern term for that is conflict resolution.
Okay.
So that's what it is. Okay, but not Hawaiian style. So you're doing a lot of chanting, and you're doing a lot of prayers to your guardians or your forefathers, or maybe a tutu, which is a grandmother that passed on, that sort of like watches over you, and you ask for guidance. In the Catholic Church, they pray to saints.
Sure.
The saint for this, the saint for that. They have a saint for everything. In fact, as you go online, there's a saint for every day. Every day of the year, there's a saint. I don't know where they get all these saints, but they got them. So they're everywhere. So what you have is you pray for guidance. You pray for understanding. You see, and then if you can clear your mind and get into that mindset, that's when this knowledge comes through. This knowing of right, wrong, what should be done, and the ability to what we call eco-pico, which means cut the cord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cut the negative that's tied between you. You know, cut the aka cord. Okay, just
So
separate activity.
the Ho'oponopono isn't just saying the words and everything's going to magically be okay. There's a process involved, right?
There's a very in-depth process. I hope you don't mind me making the commercial here, but in
Yeah,
my
of
book,
course.
in my book, which is it's on available on Amazon, and in here is the whole process of Ho'oponopono. So it's pretty powerful. It shows you step by step how it's done, and it actually was laughed at when the early periods where they sent over psychologists or therapists. They laughed at it as a joke. Now it's being used in women's prisons and other places to help bring families together, to create understanding, and to really get at the root cause of why things are the way they are. So it's to restore the light. Kala means to restore the light. It's a cleansing. So that's what you want to do. You want to do a kala. You want to restore the light, the love between you, the understanding. And then toward the end, they end up in a resolution and they say, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, I love you. And that's where the I'm sorry, I love you comes in. Once there is this letting go, is what you'll say. And there's this whole process that goes through it. And it's kind of like unwinding and untying a knot, you see, that was developed between the two parties. And then once it's done, it's never spoken again. And it's a celebration, you see, and it's a big celebration for the family. Because now the ohana is back again as a whole with aloha. And it's called aloha spirit, see, which is love, and unconditional love, you see. And that's really the key. I preach to I say preach, I teach, I share, I say, look, unconditional love, toughest thing to reach, because unconditional love rises above all gender, all social, political, and religious ideologies. Mm-hmm. Unconditional love is universal in its nature, and it is just there. That's why in the Bible often, it says the sun shines both on the just and the unjust. Let's see. Why? Because that's what it is. It's neutral. It is what it is. It's the same thing with the good and bad. People want revenge, and that's the tough thing. Yeah. It's a very tough thing because aloha spirit, that's what it is. We're all here in this tiny little dot. If you look at it, I saw a picture one time from Saturn. Here's Saturn with the rings. And it was pretty awesome from the famous telescope ship that went by it. Okay. And way in the back, they showed this tiny little white dot. Okay, tiny, tiny little white, you can hardly see it, and that was Earth.
Yeah.
So if you look at it just in the solar system, you got this tiny little white dot, and we're all on this tiny little white dot beating each other up, screaming and hollering, and it's like, why? Why do you do this? You see, why do we do this? How are we programming ourselves to this negativity that's going on? It's just terrible. So anyway, the idea is aloha spirit. That's the balance. So the water with the two fingers, healing plants, people, yourself. It's great. Okay. You can even drink the water, bring it to a sick person, but don't let it last too long, because if you leave it out for like 8, I'm trading on a different whole topic here now. But what will happen is the mana eaters will steal it. And that is the spiritual entities that are kind of earthbound. Mm-hmm. So they're looking for energy. Okay, so when you charge that water up, if you don't use it, they're going to go, hors d'oeuvres. They're going to come down and take it, and it'll be useless.
Sure.
Now, I'm not getting into NoHo, which is spirit possession and spirit and stuff like that. It's a whole different topic and stuff, But there's good spirits, obviously, and those that we look at as our ancestors and our guardians and things like that. Those are spirits too. Now we call them spirits, but I did. I don't know if you knew, but I was on a guest of 7 episodes of A&E's hit TV show, and it was. I'm trying to think of the name of it now.
You said that.
I know. I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me, but. It was an interesting thing because I worked a lot with that kind of stuff.
Was it like a Ghost Hunters type of show?
Yeah, it was like a ghost hunter type, but it was Paranormal State.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the name of the show, Paranormal State. And I was on like 7 episodes. And I was a parapsychologist and went in to go in before we did the show and everything to really see if the people were creating something, trying to get on TV. Were they lying? You know, were they doing this and that? So I was kind of like doing all the scrutinizing stuff. Got some interesting stories, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Dr. Dave, it's been a pleasure. I'd love to have you on at some point in the future as well, because I think we could sit and talk for 2 weeks at a time and not even scratch the surface on everything that you know and have to offer.
Yeah, it'd be great. I love to share knowledge and information, and the idea is all about enlightenment and trying to get out of the pre-programmed prejudice state and being open and receptive. You know, I'm working on my second book now. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to make everybody pretty upset because it's called Dancing with the Serpent. It's know the truth, or it might set you free. Because some people, you can show the truth. You can literally show them, here it is, and they still won't believe you.
But if they don't resonate with it, if they're not on that vibration, if they don't resonate with it, it's just going to go right over their head.
Not going to get it. You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Love to talk to you again.
Okay. Well, again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to listen to this episode a couple times. I was taking notes when you were talking, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. And we'll connect in the future.
All right. That sounds great. Thank you. My aloha.
Thanks. Aloha.
All right. Bye-bye.